The Better Business Bureau, State Consumer Protection Division, U.S. Postal Service, and other agencies have thousands of complaints and many investigations in progress on unscrupulous con artists. But in many cases, swindlers go on operating even while they're under investigation. While consumer protection agencies have made successful prosecutions, in some instances they are still frustrated, unable to protect the public or stop con games. Randy Ripplinger reports much of the battle against easy money scams is the responsibility of the consumer.
One of the worst rip-offs we encountered during our investigation involved some repairs on the home of this Southeast Portland resident. She paid some fast-talking repairmen over $4,700 to build a small awning, install a ceiling fan, and do some roof repairs, most of it probably needless work. The men wanted to be paid in advance, and they were. The work was sloppy, the price outrageous.
And before he did, they gave him the $3,000 first, and then when this other guy, Dan, looked at the front there, and he said it would be $1,700.
Once the money was gone, she called her daughter to find out what to do. Subsequent calls to the Better Business Bureau, the State Consumer Protection Division, and the Builders Board still didn't get the money back.
There's not too much you can do. I was trying to think, who in the world you go to after that? I was kind of disappointed because it comes down to the fact that the people that are doing this are getting away with it. Government agencies are aware that these men are doing it, and they're not doing anything about it.
But in fact, the agencies have done something, although there are limitations on what they can do. In some cases, for instance, the State Builders Board has paid out thousands of dollars in claims against a contractor's bond until the bond is exhausted. But when most people think of consumer complaints, they think of the Better Business Bureau. As well known as the BBB is, it has its limitations. What the Bureau can do is arbitrate complaints over a product with the business, but it does not act as an attorney. That means if a business tends to perform unethically or illegally, the only tool left is a bad record in BBB files, which the Bureau will release when someone asks.
There's a great deal of fear in public exposure, and there's no assumption on our part that we can handle outright law violations. And I think that this kind of thing is something that we can eliminate a little bit of by public awareness, because certainly if somebody's well informed, it's going to be very difficult for them to be conned.
Ross Leyburn and 18 other people handle scores of consumer complaints in the Oregon Consumer Protection Division. Usually the office will try to negotiate outside the courtroom to get businesses to comply with the law. And they have some degree of success. But the big problem here is that a lawsuit can't put a crook in jail nor refund the consumer. The usual remedy is a fine and an order to stop operating the business.
Sometimes the biggest frustration is in the remedy area. There is, I think, an unsettled question right now as to whether our contempt power is civil or criminal. Assuming that it was clarified in the statute that it was criminal contempt, though, you still have the problem of the overcrowding of the jails.
We try to put them out of business right away, and then if the other things meet our criteria, then we'll go after them for federal prosecution.
But even though the feds can and have jailed fraud operators, they are hamstrung at times by the very people who want the crooks stopped.
The victim of it doesn't come forward and complain, and a lot of that stems from, number one, the guy's afraid to admit that he's been a victim of mail fraud. People have the feeling, oh boy, I've been suckered, and they just don't want to tell anybody else about it.
So even with the help of business, state, or federal agencies, you may see the unscrupulous businessman fined or even jailed and still not get your money back. Perhaps the best advice is the Latin saying, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware.
If they know what they're buying and they understand it well, you know, they don't have to be as careful if they don't. You know, there used to be an old saying, if you don't know your merchandise, know your merchant.
Randy Ripplinger reporting for Channel 2 News.